Today we have with us Dr. Karishma Kaushik. Karishma is a mother, science communicator, and a supervisor to a research group and was born in Mumbai. Then Karishma traveled to Pune to do her MBBS in D.Y. Patil Medical College and Armed Force Medical College to pursue her MD in clinical microbiology.
Karishma did her PhD from Molecular Genetics and Microbiology in the Department of University of Texas at Austin, USA, after completing her MD. And then Karishma is now a scientist, and she is also a science communicator, and she has initiated Talk to a Scientist, which is a series to help young minds interact with scientists. Karishma is currently leading a research group in Savitribai Phule Pune University, where her lab focuses on human relevant infection biology. So we would like a few words on your work.
Thank you, Suman and Vinita. That was a very nice introduction. That was basically my life in a few minutes. So it's wonderful to be here, and I look forward to answering all your questions. I look forward to chatting with you. But I did return to India in 2018, and since then we've established a vibrant and dynamic research group that focuses on biofilms and infection microenvironments and trying to study them relevantly in the lab. We also interface with not only research, but industry relevant research, with the clinic, as well as with policy with respect to human relevant systems and alternatives to animal testing in India. So we are a research group that interfaces with a wide range of stakeholders in our ecosystem, in addition to our communication and outreach. And we're very excited to be in India and to be doing all this.
When did you start falling in love with science? And do you have any particular incidents that you can remember from your childhood days?
So I fell in love pretty late. The science, I mean. Well, it kind of happened at the same time that I met my husband. But that apart, I actually fell in love with science during my MD at Armed Forces Medical College, where I was actually presented with an opportunity to do a research project. So it was literally, it fell into my lap. But I guess that's what true love is, right? It just happens.
Yeah.
So there was this outbreak of chicken pox or varicella zoster amongst soldiers in the Indian Army. And AFMC Pune had kind of got some grant with the Army Research Organization to genotypically survey the circulating clinical strains of chickenpox. And I was basically told, this is your thesis, now do it. So through my work, where I started with the clinical bedside with patients, soldiers with chickenpox, collected their vesical fluid, extracted DNA, amplified the DNA, digested the DNA, and understood patterns between clinical strains and the vaccine strain. So the whole goal of this exercise was to see whether the army should roll out universal varicella immunization to soldiers because they live in barracks, they live in crowded conditions. And secondly, to see whether the circulating Indian strains were similar to the vaccine strain. And finally, to see whether there were any breakthrough vaccination cases, like post-vaccination, people were getting chickenpox. So it basically was from the bedside to the bench. My thesis project was that. And during that time, I went to National Center for Cell Sciences, Pune, to work with the PhD students on how do I run a gel, what is agarose gel, what is this, what is that, like I'm this doctor and they're like, oh, Dr. Saiba aayi hai, usko kuch pata nahi, let's teach her something. And that's when I fell in love with the discovery of research. Around that time, I decided I want to do a PhD. It was also around that time that I met my husband, and he happened to be based in California at that time. So I then put them two together and said, maybe I'll do a PhD in the US. So after my MD, I left India and did a PhD in the United States. It coincided with the time when I was also having major personal changes in my life, personal and professional changes that came together. So really, I fell in love both with research and my husband pretty late in life, and they happened at the same time.
That is a wonderful story. The thought that was mainly going in my head while I was listening to your story, and in fact, while when I read about your journey and career, like often the society gives us certain timelines in our life that you do this and after this you do that, and then that's it. You're settled and you're done. But you have challenged that in almost every phase of your life, and that is something which I think takes a lot of like love and passion for whatever you are interested in. So
there was
It's
no
really
choice, to be
commendable.
frank, Suman, because I remember after I joined my PhD, you guys are much younger than me and pursuing your graduate degree or graduate studies. Somebody made a comment after I joined my PhD that, these non-traditional PhD students, they didn't know I was one. They were like, those who are married, who have children, so they something about them, like they work differently or etc. So there was no choice. When I started my PhD, I was 29. And it was the right time on the personal front to have a child. So my son was born when I was 30 in the second year of my PhD. And since then, I've only know how to do a PhD with a child. Like, not that I'm recommending it or strongly recommending it, but that's only what I know. There was no choice. We need, to start a PhD late. It comes with a major life change like marriage and relocation. And then you're 30. You would also like to be a mother at that time. It's it's the right place for you both to become parents. You did that, and it's been a little and after that also my husband was extremely passionate about returning to India. When after I finished my PhD, we proactively started planning our return, and then we returned to India. And in fact, now I'm almost 5 years into my independent investigator life, and now I don't know if this is becoming a pattern. In 5 years, I decide to take on some major life change. If that is so, this needs to stop. But now at 5 years, I'm thinking, oh, but I'm not doing any clinical work. Now I'm itching to go back to a medical college or a clinical setup,
Wow.
where my research can actually interface with the clinic. So I don't know. I'm worried about worried about my thoughts at this point, because I'm wondering if I have to actually would like to go back to the clinic and start the.
Yeah. So do we expect you
of medicine?
Like in 10 years, do we expect you in the Bollywood? Since you said like you have a 5-year pattern, that should go on. That should go on.
I may, if there's enough incentive involved, become a consultant to Bollywood producers and directors about how to portray scientists and doctors in the movies. Because I think they do a pretty poor job of it.
That is true. Exactly.
That is true.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always some old grey person. They don't show it like us, right? They don't show it.
Wearing a lab coat, and like whoever wears a lab coat becomes a scientist. No, that's not true.
Exactly.
So work life.
So I have a question before Benita goes into asking another question. The reason is like, while you were talking, these thoughts are just coming to my mind, and I don't want to suppress them. So the fact that there are a lot of people who start their career or their PhD late because some reason or the other, and then there can be also these unconventional ways of traversing the same way, right? Which our society kind of conditions us to think that we are running late. Or so what would be your message from all the experiences that you have gone through?
I would say this, Suman and Vinita, that our society is rapidly changing. Unfortunately, our academic systems still have age cutoffs and age bars and recruitment, which is completely, in my opinion, a very obsolete way of going about it, because people can come up with great ideas at 50 and would need infrastructure and opportunities to leverage those opportunities to work on those ideas. So I mean, if it's really about building your own path. It sounds cliched, but as long as you're happy with what you're doing every step of the way, there will always be some comparisons. If you're within the system and within the cutoffs, you will envy people who have who start startups at 21 and retire at 25. That may be one path. There may be one path of getting an academic job before 35 and getting all the awards before 45, and whatever follows. So there's always going to be something you compare with that. Finally, and then it happens to me too. It's not that we are beyond these human emotions of just looking at somebody else's life and saying, oh, that looks a little easier than what I'm trying to do. But that is my path. That is how it turned out. And overall, if one is happy in their station in life, I think it's good to go. A little bit of comparison is good to keep you in check. But overall, it's your path. You just have to do it your way. Because that person who's following what you seem to think of as a conservative or traditional path is actually probably envying you, right? I mean, that's how it is. Somebody might look at
True.
me and say, I look at others and say, oh, well, I started a PhD at 30. Somebody will look at me and say, but she has 2 medical degrees behind her.
Yeah.
Right. So it's,
True.
it's the way, it's what you finally what gives you that sense of satisfaction and happiness.
Apart from being a scientist, you are a mother and a wife. That means like 2 more work-life balances depend on your work-life balance. So how do you manage all this?
I don't think I do a very great job. I think my Twitter communicates I do a better job than I actually do. But having said that, let me say it is 2 things. I feel it's not prioritized enough by scientists. I think we have worked ourselves into this overwork mode, and we associate it with time spent on the job without recognizing that we are often so high functioning that within 2 hours we get what would otherwise take 8 or 9 hours, right? So we don't really need to spend that 8 or 9 hours. That is one thing. It also creates a very unhealthy atmosphere for others who want to enforce work-life balance, because then most often in my life, I have been the only person walking out of the office or the lab at 5.
Yeah.
I have kind of got used to it because for me, I have pressing priorities at home. I need to relieve the nanny when Abhay was younger. Now I need to check on the food for the night. I need to take care of things. That is my life. And the other thing that started happening at some stage in my mid 30s was I wanted to prioritize my health. I wanted to use the evenings for some exercise, for some reading, for some quiet time. And all of this is not, I still don't think people talk about it enough. People almost feel guilty to do it. They do it surreptitiously and saying things like, oh, मैं meeting के लिए जा रहा हूँ और कोई बीमार है. And this is not the way to do it. You just say that I need to go and get 1 hour at the gym. So work-life balance essentially is saying that work is a part of my life and the rest of my life is also part of my life. And that is absolutely fine. And if I'm being judged for it, so be it, because at the end of the day, our health, our happiness, our family welfare is in our hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like that's a very strong statement. And I think like that is one of the best I have heard till now, that you have to like stop feeling guilty about taking some time off for yourself, and it's completely okay.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's so
And
true.
I think when one person doesn't do it, you create an environment where everybody's expected to do it.
True.
Exactly. Yeah, true. It's just about few people who are not doing it, and they are being like strong enough to communicate it that, oh, not doing it is good. So even like things which are good that look bad because few people are not doing it. So
absolutely. And to be honest, my entire PhD, I've said this before also, was done between 9 and 5 because I had a child at home. Abhay was born in the 2nd year. So he was 4 years old when I finished, right? And Kaushik had a very hectic job in the United States with all the challenges of immigration and, job pressure and what was this, the recessions and everything. So he was traveling for work. So I think if anything, I can say it is possible to do a PhD between 9 and 5. You just have to be very focused, very meticulous, planned, and get that thing done. I had such a pressing commitment at 5 o'clock. The nanny needed to leave. So the stakes for me were that if I don't come home at 5, my 1-year-old son is going to be alone in the house. Like, you don't have to have the stakes so high to be able to leave the lab at 5 p.m. Right? The stakes can't be that you're committing a crime by leaving your 1-year-old in the house alone. Unfortunately, the stakes don't have to be this high to be able to say I need to leave. And so this culture, I mean, a lot of scientists and PIs also say this, and I think it percolates to the PhD scholars and researchers as well, that if you're not in the lab till 10 p.m., it's not a PhD. Absolutely not. I would rather have a happy PhD student come the next day at 9 p.m. and be productive, efficient, come up with good ideas, creative ideas, just be happy on the job than somebody who stayed up till 10 p.m. and is unhappy and unhealthy. Benita, I don't know, wisdom of 4 decades, there is no race. So just you're on your own path. I think we have to stop thinking of this as a racetrack and we are all competing. Struggle for work-life balance and should I leave early, should I work till 10 p.m. plays out in our own head. Once you are convinced about something, we are not going to question it. Like, I'm convinced that I do not want to do harm to somebody. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to ask people, am I right in not doing harm to somebody? Do you agree with me that I shouldn't do harm to somebody? No, you're convinced. We ask people, is it okay to leave at 5? Is it okay to take vacations? Because we are not convinced.
True.
This culture of overwork has percolated so much that we feel guilty right to the bone if we take time off, which is due to us when we join an organization at any academic position, whether it's as a researcher or a faculty. You are entitled to your leave. Take it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
even if it means sitting at home, doing whatever gives you some pleasure and relaxation.
I have a question that is like quite discussed, and you're quite popular for that. How did the idea of talk to a scientist came up? Like, what was the first thing that happened while you were thinking of talk to a scientist?
Very much like Kitchen Lab, actually. When you narrated your story, it was actually very similar. It was a situation, it was a need, and then it was doing something about it. Pretty much that. So pandemic hit, we were all home, and my son started asking lots of questions about droplets and social distancing and things like that. And then I just asked him, would your other friends want to know? Those who probably, don't have scientists as parents. And he said, yeah, but mom, not COVID all the time. Because by April 2020, even they were done talking about COVID.
Yeah.
Like it was just a month into our national lockdown. So then I WhatsApped Snehal and I said, Snehal, shall we do this? And Snehal being Snehal, she rises to any occasion. I mean, give her an opportunity and she will own it. So she said, yes, let's do it. I mean, it was just literally like I had that WhatsApp screenshot. Like I don't even think she thought about it. I pretty much told her, I have an idea. Shall we do it? And she's like, yes, let's do it. And then I replied,
Wow.
but wait, first hear the idea. Please hear what I'm trying to say. Like the idea is not that bizarre.
You need friends like that.
Absolutely. Snehal is really a friend / colleague. She started as a member of my research group. And then because she was the first member, we spent so much time together. I think we just became friends. So it's in a way kind of a relationship I had with my PI because I was the first member in her group. And we were also not too far apart in terms of our academic stage and age as well. And then we just made a poster. Snehal made the poster. We put it on Twitter and we thought like nobody's going to show up. Like I told Abhay and my nephew niece and Snehal told her cousins like, "Abhi tum log 5-6 log to aao please." Like we don't want to show up on a Zoom meeting, Snehal and me discussing COVID with each other. Like okay. And Vinita and Suman, when we actually started the meeting, 75 kids were there. The
Oh my
first meeting of
God.
Dr. Scientist.
Wow.
And I remember, I was like, oh my God, the chat window was enormously interactive. That's when we discovered we'll have to mute everyone and keep interaction only on chat window because 75 young minds and 75 background of house noise.
Yeah.
We just learned on the job. And then after the first session, the kids said, oh, when is the next session, ma'am? When is the next session? And I looked at Snehal and said, okay, next week. This was like live on Zoom.
Wow.
And then they're like, what's the topic, ma'am? And the first thing that I could say was biofilm. Because I was like, what else? Like, I can do biofilm.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened. And week after week. And there, I think the ecosystem really propelled us because IOG, India Bioscience Outreach Grant, in a few months actually had a grant only for such platforms. So
Wow.
let's not forget that till IOG came, Dr. Scientist, in terms of the Zoom and other costs for Google storage and things like that, were completely funded by Snehal and me. Right? It's only
Wonderful.
after IOG came, and this is the passion that they recognize that we will do it irrespective of funding. We are not doing it for the funding. We are doing it.
Yeah.
If the funding
Absolutely.
happens, it takes care of some cost. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will still do
True.
it. Then first
Yeah.
IOG happened, second IOG happened, and it gave us enough money to grow. So we could introduce new things like a paid account or things like even Amazon vouchers for our summer quizzes, freelance costs for video editing. So we didn't know that even editing videos is quite a monetary commitment because a video editor also has to buy that software and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
so on,
Yeah.
right?
True.
So IOG support came in, and then Snehal applied for an American Geophysical Union communication grant, and she got it. So that's pretty much how it grew. It was pretty much a conversation between Abhay and me, and then Snehal and me, and that's how it was born. Very similar to your story, and I think
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
that's all it
And
takes.
Coming to our next question, you've been prolific in communicating science in India. So what is your opinion on science communication in India, and how can people in STEM help in changing the mindset of people to take science communication seriously?
So I don't know I'm really not an authority to comment on the vast landscape of science communication in India, but I will say that there is a lot of space to be filled. We need more communicators, more communication platforms. We also need them in many different languages, Indian languages. I also believe we need them through very different mediums, such as webinars, podcasts, written word, blogs. So there is room to there is room to fill, there is room to diversify. And with India representing such a heterogeneous mass of people that we are, we can be, really, we can show how science communication is done to the world if we just manage to get it right in India. Because in India, we'll have to have different languages, we'll have to have radio, we'll have to reach like from Ladakh to Lakshadweep to communicate anything, right? And we can actually show that, how it has been done. So there is a saying that you solve a problem in India and you solve it for the world.
What do you like to do when you take a break from science?
I do think about science a lot, but I think what I like to prioritize is just getting new input, new information. So I enjoy reading a lot about a wide range of material. Like right now, I'm actually reading The Pillars of Civilization by Yuval Noah Harari. My earlier book was the Indian Ocean Churn by Sanjeev Sanyal. So a wide range of books. I think I like to do that. I also like to exercise. I do prioritize my health. And I think somewhere in my 30s, I did realize that, there is really nothing worth putting a price on your health for. So I do exercise pretty regularly. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The rest of the time I'm thinking, of course, I'm with my family a lot and we do travel together. And that is our time with the three of us. Yeah. That we do enjoy doing, and that is very non-negotiable for me. To be able to, at least for a week in a year or 2 weeks in a year, just get off the grid and be with my family. But otherwise, I'm a pretty much a full-time, mom as well. And I run a house and everything that goes with it, So there are times, there are very good days. The very good days when you come home and everything is perfect and the child is fed and he's in a good mood and he's done his exercise and everything. And then there are days when you leave work like there's been a bomb hit there, and then you come home and there are flares even at home. So I almost feel like I'm leaving one wreck into another wreck. So definitely life is very busy. Yeah, and then of course there is Talk to a Scientist, which takes up a lot of my time in addition to my research and teaching. I also do teach at Savitribai Phule Pune University.
Awesome.
So life is full, but life is fun.
One question that I'm really curious to know about, and a lot of people do face this challenge when they have done their PhD abroad and coming back to India and opening a lab in India is often a big challenge. So what are the challenges that you faced when opening your own lab in India?
So in my case, it was a little compounded by the fact that I also did my MBBS MD in India. So I left India with almost like very little scientific experience or network or how things work. So I think the biggest challenge, if one could fix, is before coming to India or as soon as you come to India, is figure out how things work in science in India. It is quite different from the rest of the world, right? Starting with obtaining positions, fellowships and grants, procurements of consumables, equipment, getting to know your colleagues, and then also understanding how the larger ecosystem works in terms of framing science policy, what are communication and outreach initiatives that are existing. So it's really very different from the rest of the world. And I think the biggest input I could give someone is understand how it works and how it is different and find your way to work within it.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time doing that actually on my return to India, just trying to understand how things work.
That's nice.
Since you're very active in social media, and what are your views on impact of social media in today's science?
I've written about it, Snehal, and I've also written about it in a couple of articles. I've talked about it a lot. I think it's a professional tool like anything else. It's the way you use it. If you're trying to run a gel on a PCR machine, it's not going to work. You need to use the right tool, the right equipment for the right end result. You need to know how it works. It's nothing but a professional set of tools, and it can be leveraged enormously for understanding your ecosystem, making impact in your ecosystem, getting to know of opportunities that you can contribute to. So I do believe it's kind of inescapable today. It's kind of saying that I would do all my work without a computer. Gonna be difficult to do. So some web presence, some social media presence is really important. But I think even more than social media, I would say something that I would recommend to all scientists in India, please make a lab website and have a lab website that is updated. That is your web footprint. That is your digital footprint. I mean, you can't be persona non grata if somebody Googles you, right? And your website should be updated. And that is something we started very soon after moving to India. And people have looked up our website and emailed us saying, hey, can we work on this? And we've actually got grants to work on that. So that's how much a little bit of investment can lead to, a full-fledged collaboration. In fact, our Royal Society project happened exactly like that. So these are the small things. I think we can't really live in an age where only an institute website is enough and it's updated once a year. And, so the PI and all the students will be looking like what they did 10 years ago in those pictures, like they wouldn't be updated. I don't think that can work anymore. If you want to build a flourishing dynamic research group, you need to be a little more out there.
So when you select a student for your lab, what do you see in them?
I mean, really, if I had to say one word, it would be enthusiasm. And that sums up everything: ownership, willingness to learn. So I don't really like to do a very formal vetting process, because I really believe that you can swim only if you're in the water. You can stand outside on the deck and keep doing this, and that still doesn't mean you're going to get anywhere when you're in the water. So if someone shows excitement, enthusiasm, willingness to learn, I take them on board. And we've had a very open lab policy. So for example, Shriya Made, who's joined us for a bioinformatics project, was a cold email she sent to me. In that week, I also got emails from two other students, Gandhar Tendulkar and Stuti Panse, and I told them all, okay, we're going to do a project together. And we executed this project completely remotely during 2020, 2021, and we published it. Now it led to a collaboration with Shastra. These were cold emails. We worked completely remotely. Similarly, Supriya joined us on a project now, completely cold email. So I don't really do a lot of vetting. In fact, I don't even think I took interviews for any of these people. It was simple, like, are you ready to do the work? Let's do it.
Wow.
Having said that, sure, there are times I've given people a chance and it's not panned out as well as I would have liked. But these things happen. And I always look at it like, who knows what was going on in their end, Everyone writes that email with enthusiasm and excitement. If things come up, it happens. But I'm very trusting of people when I take them in the team, and I really haven't overall been let down. I've gained a lot by being very open. So I reply to every email. And often we can't take people in the lab. We can't take people in the lab because that lab has a maximum limit. Right? There are University of Pune students itself, then PhD students, then postdocs, then research fellows. So it's difficult to accommodate everybody in the lab. But if somebody is ready to do remote work in terms of bioinformatics or other kind of work, then we have found ways to create an opportunity, and we've benefited a lot from it.
All it takes is sometimes to ask. That's what
exactly. And pretty much. So I think it's one thing to get an opportunity, but my experience with Shriya, Stuti, Gandhar, Supriya has been, it's also one thing to use that opportunity. That's the only message I will give students or researchers who are starting out and looking for opportunities. You may get it, but it's up to you now to also use it and leverage it.
To use it.
Which means doing the work, building the professional skills, just showing commitment and ownership to the opportunity given to you. Remember, somebody is also investing that time in creating that opportunity for you. So you need to do your end of the deal.
With this, we come to the last question, and we would like to ask you that what are your thoughts about Kitchen Lab and the virtual part of it?
So I'm very excited I'm very inspired actually to say about this. When I heard the story of Kitchen Lab, I honestly did not know this. And it, in so many ways, it mirrors what we did with Talk to a Scientist. And it's really interesting that we were on parallel tracks that converged only today, right? I mean, you thought of a need, you thought of filling the need, and you did whatever you could to fill that need. And your journey, in fact, has been even more compelling with the way you've raised money for the platform through your own work, through other initiatives and engagement. So I'm very inspired. Indian science, we all need more stories like this. And in fact, I think we should write about the Kitchen Lab for India Bioscience or some platform like that. So I am actually that inspired
Thanks
by
a
it.
lot.
I also, on a
Thank
serious
you.
note, look forward to collaborating with TTS sometime. Let us
Yeah,
see how we
yeah,
can do
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, we should.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
I
we
think
should.
And hats off to both
I
of you with
Thank
all
you
your
so
time
much.
zones and your own professional commitments to keep this going. We know what it takes to keep Talk to a Scientist going. So hats off to you. I can only know what it takes to keep your platform going.
Thank you,
Yes,
thank you so much.
thank
yes,
you so much.
This
yes.
gives us all
It
the
just made,
all the encouragement for us to
yeah, to
continue
go on.
on. Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks
Great.
a lot, Karishma, and we'll keep in
Thanks
touch
a
with you.
lot.